What's up guys, it's Celeste, and here we are officially now in the Trump presidency. And I could make a video about all the terrible things that have happened this week already, all of the questionable things that he's done already just within the first few days of office, but I'm not going to do that. I'm going to talk about something more positive, which is how people have been responding to him and to the changes that he's trying to enact, and specifically how I've been involved in that. So last Friday, on the day of the inauguration, I found out there was going to be a protest in downtown Orlando, protesting Trump, but also just generally the attitudes that he's been espousing that are, racist, sexist, homophobic, transphobic, xenophobic, etc. So I decided to go check that out. I obviously was going to support the message that they were all expressing and everything, but I didn't really participate that much in it. I mostly kind of just went along and obviously was with them and marched with them and everything, but I largely was spending the whole time taking pictures of everybody else. So I did that. I haven't actually edited those yet, so I don't know if I'll be able to put any of those into this video, at least not very many of them. But it was a really cool experience, and basically it was just people holding up signs and chanting and stuff at Lake Eola, which is one of the, it's a lake obviously in downtown Orlando, but there's also a park there, and it's right in the middle of downtown. So people were holding up signs so that people driving by would see them, and then everybody marched to City Hall and did the same thing there and then marched back. So that's basically what it was, and there were a couple hundred people there. I never heard an actual count, but it wasn't huge, but not super tiny either. So that was cool. And then the next day was the women's rally, which was the, it was called Women's Rally Central Florida, and it was the Orlando area rally and march that was in solidarity with the huge Women's March on Washington, which obviously was a huge deal last Saturday. I knew a bunch of people who went to the one in Washington. I had wanted to go, but obviously it was a little bit cost prohibitive for me, so I wasn't able to do that. But then when I found out there were going to be these sister marches all over the country, I wanted to go to the one in Orlando. So I did go to that, and I'm actually really glad that I went to the one in Orlando. I think the one in Washington would have been really cool to be able to be at, but the one in Orlando was really nice. It was a very empowering experience. So I'm just going to talk a little bit about it, and I have edited my pictures from that. I didn't take really any video at that, but I just found out that the estimate for the attendees for the Orlando rally was about 10,000, and they had, I think, been expecting something like 5,000, so that was pretty awesome. And I think it was like that just about everywhere. I know people that went to events all over the country and also in Canada. I don't think I know anybody that went to any of the other ones around the world, but it was a really interesting thing because I think it didn't get a lot of press ahead of time, and even during and right after, it seemed like a lot of the media outlets weren't really covering it that much, or at least not to the degree that they really should have been for what it was. But I think pretty quickly everybody figured out that it actually was a really big deal. I think it's impossible for anybody to say how many people actually were involved, but I've heard estimates everywhere from 3 million to almost 6 million people around the world that were in some kind of event, either a rally or a march or something that was specifically in solidarity with this Women's March on Washington. So I've heard that that makes it the biggest protest in human history, which I think is really cool, and I'm definitely glad I got to be a part of it. But I think as far as the estimates, a lot of places didn't expect there to be as huge of a turnout as there actually was. So I know there were a couple of cities where they actually weren't even able to march because there were just so many people. But yeah, so the Orlando one was really cool. It was very well organized. I was very impressed with that. It was also at Lake Eola, and when I first got there, I just kind of walked up, and there were a lot of people standing around. I didn't realize how many people there were until I actually got up into the crowd, but there were just people spread out everywhere, all over the park, all over the lawns, and people standing around, people sitting around, just kind of like hanging out and making friends and talking to each other. There were a couple of people who were dressed as two of the characters, or I don't know what you would call them, figures on the new posters that Shepard Fairey designed, that he had made available for everybody to print out and everything. So these two people made like basically like cosplayed as two of those characters. So I thought that was really awesome. And just lots of people with all kinds of signs, t-shirts and pins and everything that were just like, it was just really nice to be around that many people that I felt like I shared values with. Just to know that there are that many people in my area that are like that. So I just kind of walked around for a while and looked at people with the signs and everything, and everybody was super, super friendly. I was wearing a t-shirt that I got for Christmas from my parents that has a bunch of cupcakes with like queer flags on them, on the frosting. And I got a whole bunch of compliments on that. I got a lot of compliments on my hair, and just everybody was super friendly, and just, it was just a really positive atmosphere to be in. And especially to be in after the inauguration and just like in the climate that we were in. It was kind of weird because like it was all about combating that and combating like hate and sexism and racism and all this stuff. So obviously that was like at the forefront of everybody's mind, but at the same time it was almost like a vacation from that. It was almost like this little slice of like utopia of what society should be like, of what the atmosphere of positivity and love and welcoming and friendship and all this kind of stuff could be like. It was just really positive to be around that. So I went up and found a pretty good spot up near the band shell, which is where all the speakers were going to be presenting. It was a good spot as far as visibility of the stage and everything, but it actually was kind of like the worst spot because it was directly across from where the sun was. So the sun was basically like directly on my face the entire time. They had a really good lineup of speakers. Most of them were people I hadn't heard of before, but they did a really good job with diversity. Hopefully I'll remember all this correctly, but I think they had 2 Latinas, 3 Muslim Americans, 2 Black women, 2 disabled women, 3 queer women, I believe. I think there were only really a couple of straight white women, which was really cool to see at an event like that. So they all talked about different things, but they were all very empowering, and it was just like a really, I know I keep using the word empowering, but that's really what it felt like. It was just a very positive and uplifting and galvanizing feeling to be around that many people, like I said, who I felt shared my values, but also people who were willing to do something about it, to go to this event, to stand up, to make signs, to march, to speak, to just do all this stuff that's like really proactive and just trying to make a difference and trying to fight everything that's happening and try to protect each other. I guess one way I could put it is that there was a lot of anger there, but it was very focused anger, and it was very productive feeling anger. It wasn't just anger as an end, but more as a force of like energy that could energize people to act and to speak up and to do something. And so that was really nice feeling, because I think it's easy when there's so much awful stuff going on to just feel angry and just kind of like hold that in and feel that anger and then not do anything with it. And I feel like anger is a really important emotion to feel and to let yourself feel, but not just do that and then just leave it like that, because then it just stays inside you and doesn't really do anything for you or anybody else. So to see so many people turning it into something positive and turning it into something to come together and be protective of each other and all that was really nice. It was a really good feeling. I've heard a lot of things about other events that people experienced feeling really alienated or even like blatantly made to feel like they didn't belong there. And I'm sure that some people did feel that way about this event, But for me personally, I didn't really feel that very much at this event. There were a few times that some of the speakers said things that were kind of invalidating or like erasing feeling to me. Like they would say, like they would like specifically call out to like the ladies and then like the men and stuff, and like forget everybody else. But at the same time, there were a couple, including one of the organizers, who specifically mentioned like tried to be inclusive with language and tried to make everybody feel welcome. I can't remember exactly what she said, but it was basically something to the effect of acknowledging people who don't identify as male or female. So that was really cool. I guess I felt like it being a women's event, that there was some level of kind of generalization that was going to happen, and it did happen. And I was able to kind of put that aside, I guess. And I know that that was a problem for a lot of trans women who felt like there was a lot of equating of being a woman with certain genitalia or reproductive organs and things like that. And I can totally appreciate that. I totally can understand that. So I think that that could have been more inclusive. Most of the signs and stuff that I saw personally at the event that I went to were, I felt kind of individual, like people saying, like people speaking specifically about their own bodies or their own body parts and things like that, and not necessarily saying that these things were completely equated. I don't know if that makes sense, but I guess that was kind of the message that I got from people around me that I saw. But I know that there definitely were a lot of signs and things being said at probably this event and also other ones that were more generalized, that were more alienating to a lot of trans women and also trans men and non-binary people and everybody whose experience with gender and body parts don't necessarily line up with what a lot of people kind of assume them to. I don't know if I'm saying this right, but basically just trying to say that for me personally, I didn't feel too much invalidating, but I can respect that other people would at things like this. Yeah. So that was just my experience there. And yeah, it was just generally a really positive experience and made me feel even more like I want to be a part of something, some kind of positive change. And even if it's just speaking up about things, I think that's really important to do. So that's about it. This was a little bit more rambly than I had wanted to make it, but this week has been kind of stressful for me. I hadn't actually mentioned this before on my videos, but I did get a job where I'm working from home now doing transcription. So that's pretty cool. I'm making some money and it's good that I'm able to work from home. But it does take up a lot of time and I have deadlines for what I'm doing. So it's been a little bit stressful this week with all of that. And then tonight I'm going to see Billy Joel, which I'm really excited about. And then on Sunday, my parents are coming to visit. So I've just had kind of a lot going on and everything. So I'm kind of a little bit unfocused right now. But I wanted to make this video before I sort of forgot the feeling of what it was like being at the women's rally and everything. So I hope that you enjoyed this video. If you did, give it a thumbs up and subscribe if you want to see more of my future videos. Thanks so much for watching, and I'll see you guys next time.